This is a tutorial on how to graph things using the Excel spreadsheet. Over here we will be using these data points in order to create a graph. If I want to create a graph, I can go over to my data points, highlight the data points that I would like to graph, go up to Insert, and over here you will see choices for the graphs. Line graphs are usually not as helpful because they always connect the dots. We usually use scatter points for dots. However, you can use a bar graph or a pie graph if you need it. We will be using a scatter plot, and when you click on them you can see that there are many different chart types. There are times where they will connect the dots with straight lines, curved lines, where they create a line out of your data points, or where they just plot the data points. This is the one that we like to use. Once you have your graph, you will need to add axis titles and a title for the graph. You can do this by going to Chart Layouts, and you can see that there are many options based on what your graph will look like. I usually use the one that's on the top with the far left because it has an x-axis title, a y-axis title, and a title for the graph. Once you click on that, they will give you options to label the titles. Click on them, erase, and you can add a title. Axis titles need to include the units that you used to measure the different values. For instance, if I were to do temperature, measure temperature, I would need to put on the axis temperature, and then in parentheses I would put degrees Celsius or Kelvin. There is also a series marker over here that is used to tell you exactly what is on a certain data point set. If you only have one set, you really do not need this extra piece right here. You can click on it, push delete, and it'll go away. That way you have a more fine graph. However, if you decide that you want to plot multiple data sets on one graph to see relationships, you will need a key on the side, and that's what this series does. So you can come over to your data points, right click on a PC, or if you're using a Mac you can push Control and then click. That will give you this table or this choice option. Go to Select Data, and this allows you to edit your graph with data points. For instance, if I click on Series 1 and click Edit, I can name Series 1 so I know what that line is telling me. I can also add data points. I'm going to add Y and Z. Click on the X values. This is the values that will go on your X-axis. So I will use the Y plot over here. And then I need to enter my Y values. So I'm going to get rid of that. The equal sign is something you need to keep. So make sure you don't delete that. And then just highlight the data points that you would want there. Click OK. And you can see you have a nice new line. You can add many different data points, data sets to a graph using this function. Make sure to include labels so you know what they mean. You can also remove things in this area by clicking on the series you want to delete and push remove. Now that we have some data points on here, when analyzing data, it's good to create a trend line a lot of the time. So again, right click, click and hold down Control if you're on a Mac. Go to Add Trend Line. And over here, they will give you options of different types of graphs. As you know, different graphs will take different shapes based on the equation that they use. You will have to look at your data and see which one fits the best. This data is obviously linear, so we will keep the linear. We will go down here and push Display Equation on Chart and Display R-Squared Value on Chart, and then push Close. The reason you do this is so you have your y equals mx plus b equation. The slope of the line will tell you many things in chemistry. The y-axis, the y-intercept is also here if you need it. The R-squared value will tell you how well your line matches up with your data point. So how accurate is your line? As you can see, this line is pretty accurate. It's close to 1. 1 is the perfect line. Now that you have those, that is the basic graph site. As with everything, you can change the color of your dots, the shape of your graph, if they come out, if the dots are smaller, square, diamond, the different shapes. There are different designs. There are different layouts, formats, things that you can do. I would suggest looking over Excel and playing with how to manipulate these graphs and becoming comfortable with them.